1993, shortly after the 1992 Disney film Aladdin was released in theaters and coming to VHS, a movie-based game made its way to many platforms. The two chief versions at the time were for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Today, I'll be showcasing the Genesis version, primarily because that's the one I own, but also for other reasons that I'll be addressing. Let's start with the gameplay. Aladdin is a platforming action game in which your player character is equipped with a sword and some apples for attacking the enemy at a distance. Levels are filled with checkpoints to help make the game a little easier for players. You can stumble onto a merchant to purchase extra lives and wishes, as in, do you wish to continue, with rubies found within the levels. And if the game is played on an easier difficulty, the player will usually be steered towards some additional health and apples before encountering something like an end-of-level boss. By the way, you may not know that we've already hit on our first difference between the Genesis and the Super Nintendo versions of the game. In the Super Nintendo version of the game, Aladdin is missing his sword. Most people believe this was at the request of Nintendo when they had Capcom developing the game on their platform and wanting to keep the violence to a minimum. You still have the apples, but Aladdin mostly just bounces off the heads of his enemies. The Virgin-developed Aladdin for the Genesis shows Aladdin using his sword, and it's simply part of the game's basic mechanics, equipped from the moment you start the game. When I was younger, I only owned the Super NES, but the first time I had experienced Aladdin, I rented a Genesis console and the Aladdin game. It was a ton of fun, and eventually I just rented Aladdin for the Super Nintendo, but the sword was missing. Some time had passed since I rented the Genesis version, so I kept thinking I must have to earn the sword in a future level. But it never came. And I learned later in life I wasn't the only one who kept expecting to get the sword, even though you couldn't earn it. Some people consider this the key difference between the Capcom SNES version and the Virgin Genesis version. But there's at least one other massive difference, and that's in the form of graphics. While the SNES version didn't look bad by any means, and Capcom's art team did a great job of making sprites for their game, there's no doubt that the Genesis version looks incredible. Actual Disney animators contributed to the sprite design of the Genesis version of the game, which really brought the full Disney style to life in this game. Everything from running and jumping animations to idle animations, everything is just smooth. The colors are vibrant, and there are times that it's easy to forget that you're playing this game on a 16-bit console. The artwork in the levels is also excellent. The environments look very familiar to anyone who's seen the movie, and in some areas you can even find Easter eggs worked into the background, including Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, or a few skeletons wearing Mickey Mouse ears that you might wear if you spent the day at the theme park. There's also this dog holding a key. Feel free to leave a comment below if you can tell me what this one's from. Maybe another Disney film that I didn't watch as a kid, or just another movie in general. Anyway, the other levels have some excellent Easter eggs hidden as well. It all just goes to show the level of detail and care and attention that this game received while in development. The sound effects are varied the way a proper game in the 1990s should have been. Nearly every action has 2 or more sound effects tied to it, so that you don't get a single droning sound effect every time you repeat the same action. While they aren't pristine and crisp, nothing was in 1993, so it's easy to forgive the muffled sound. And while the music isn't perfect, there are definitely identifiable songs from the soundtrack included in the game, as well as a few original pieces, which lend themselves to greater variety and doesn't beat you over the head with Disney music while you're playing a Disney game about a Disney character. They know just where they can pull back a little bit and save you, or perhaps your parents back then, from feeling overwhelmed. And although I know what many of you are already thinking, yeah, I've seen the movie, I know the story behind Aladdin, I wanted to ask the important question: does the game tell the actual story? To find out, I started where most gamers started back in this era, with the instruction manual. Mystery, magic, action. Look for adventure and you'll find Aladdin. He's always where the action is, leaping across rooftops and running through the hustle and bustle of Agrabah. The streets are chock full of knife jugglers, snake charmers, basket thieves, and oh yes, a sultan-sized squad of palace guards, part of Royal Deceiver, or make that advisor, Jafar's ever-present troops. There's trouble afoot in the Sultan's palace, with Princess Jasmine trapped in the middle. Greedy Jafar is about to pull some very evil tricks out of his turban, and Aladdin's about to be caught up in a high-speed chase full of magic, action, and untold hazards. Only the quickest of street rats will be able to escape them. It's no ordinary escapade that Aladdin's about to face. He's got to fight through Agrabah, escape the Sultan's dungeon, survive the fiery Cave of Wonders, snatch the genie's lamp, and battle Jafar in his own secret sanctum. Aladdin's got a few streetwise tricks of his own, plus a shining scimitar to make sure he trades slash for slash. And maybe, just maybe, he'll get a wish or two. But even for the world's smartest street rat, there's danger ahead. Wow, that's a better introduction in the instruction booklet than I was expecting. I genuinely thought I would see the word Disney a few times in there and a reminder to buy the movie on VHS, and don't forget the cartoon series that's bound to be coming soon. But no, it actually described the character of Aladdin and the perilous adventure he's about to undertake. The game itself uses comic book-like stills with some written dialogue of characters, but this is where it goes a little bit off the rails. It tries to bring in quotes from the movie, but there's no context for any of them in the game. For instance, when Iago asks if he can get off this thing yet, but there's no picture or description of what he's even doing. He's just surrounded by blackness. Still, the game does a good job of working you slowly through the storyline, prefacing each level with what Aladdin is supposed to be doing as he traverses everything from rooftops to sand dunes to caves. Even though the game tells you a story between levels, the actions within the levels don't necessarily reflect exactly what's going on, and it does seem to be somewhat thrown together in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense. Although this Genesis title is famously designed, popular because it's so nice to look at, and fun to sing along with, if you wanted to be treated to the feel-good story and experience the friendship between a young man and his big blue genie, well, then I'm afraid you're going to have to rent the movie. Because otherwise, you'll be left wishing for more than our story so far. Hey everyone out there, that was episode 36 of Our Story So Far.tv. Aladdin was one that I've wanted to touch on for a while, just wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it. I think it turned out alright. But whether you agree or disagree, feel free to leave a comment down below. Or you can always send me a message on Twitter @NewAngel, that's NUANGEL. I always appreciate a thumbs up and a new subscriber, that's always great. And if you're looking for more videos and you can't find them somewhere you can click on the page right now, then feel free to go to ourstorysofar.tv. That's where I keep all the episodes archived in 1080p quality. As always, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to have a new episode ready for you in 2 weeks. So until next time, take care of yourself.